All right, we're back here on the Roger Hughes Show and Hatter Chatter live from the Half Wall Beer House in DeLand. It's a beautiful place, 76 beers on tap, 25 televisions. You got to come check it out. No better place to watch the Niners and the Rams tonight. If you want to watch Monday Night Football, you can use 25 eyes and see the game in 25 different. You know what would be great is if they had 25 different camera angles.
No, it'd be really great if you got a chance to sample all those taps, and then it looks like you have 25 TVs. It looks like you feel like you have 25 eyes for it.
You could have 20,
not that I would know what that's like.
You could have 25 angles on just about everything.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you, great to have you here, Ernie. Ernie Yarborough, folks, their men's soccer coach, and it's your first season, and let's just we'll talk about it. You know, you came from Indiana. You were an assistant in Indiana. Less than ideal conditions from your perspective coming in. Of course, a tragedy struck the athletic family here at Stetson when Logan Fleck passed away in the summer, and it affected everyone, and most of all, it affected the players. And these were players that were lost until you came. Talk a bit about your arrival.
Yeah, obviously coming into a situation where someone's passed away, it's always going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with the personnel you have. But full credit to the players. I think they were hungry for an opportunity to show someone what they could do, to take that legacy that he had taught with them and moved them on. I mean, Stetson Strong is something we talk about, and they're very good with that. They've persevered, and I knew Logan personally, and I knew his father very well. And it's very hard when someone in our community passes, certainly ones that have done so much for the growth of the game in this country that you saw this summer with the World Cup and some of the other things that have been going on with the MLS. So it's a great opportunity for me to help continue what he's done and what his family's done, and certainly to take Stetson to hopefully a level that they haven't been to with this program before.
How's your, I know you were an assistant in Indiana. How far does soccer go back for you?
Honestly, it goes back to I was probably about 10 years old when I realized that it was a game that I could play and enjoy. I did try football a little bit here and there. I was a big baseball player, golfer. A lot of people don't know I sailed a lot growing up in New Jersey. But when I moved to Florida, it was baseball and soccer primarily when I first got here in 9th grade, and the opportunity came to play with varsity sooner than baseball in soccer. Mm-hmm. And so I took it, and it really grew for me the summer between my junior and senior year. I went to Europe and played a lot against some foreign national teams in different countries, and you really saw then what the game is outside of the United States. And that really kind of turned it for me where I said there's something more to this than I've ever experienced before, and became important for me to move on to the next level. I was fortunate enough to have a great opportunity as a walk-on at Indiana University. We went to the Final Four my freshman year. We continued on to the final my junior redshirt junior year, and made great friends that have helped me in the industry, and it's been a great passion of mine since, again, about 30 years.
Why do you think, and this is something that I ask myself every time I see the World Cup on television. It's like you go around the world and it's all soccer, and there's people that break down gates and practically kill each other. Sometimes they actually do, over a soccer game. Why is it that it got such a foothold everywhere but America, it seems? And now it's coming back in America, or starting in America, but it really and truly worldwide, it's been that way a long time. Yeah,
the history of the game is a long one. There's countries that have been going at it for literally hundreds of years. There are ceasefires during World Cups, and it really is a global event when things like that happen. Most of it goes down to there just wasn't a lot of the game itself in this country. We had the immigrants certainly in the early 1900s that were bringing it in. St. Louis, New York, Philadelphia had a lot of the immigrant population that were working in the mills and the breweries and things like that.
Right.
And so it was kind of pocketed in a lot of areas. And what you saw was that baseball and football and basketball and these American versions of sport were coming to pass, and that's what the people, they were American, simply put, to be honest. And I heard a great quote about 5 or 6 years ago that said if you tried to introduce baseball to America today, it probably wouldn't take.
True.
Because it's so slow and methodical, and you have to understand the rules and the reasons people do things.
That's a good point.
But at the same time, he said if you try to introduce soccer or football as we know it to Italians today, they probably wouldn't like it for the same reasons, because that was their version of an athletic event that it took some time, and they understood the game and the rules and the nuances, and a 0-0 tie can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I got to say, though, the Italians came a long way because they used to sacrifice Christians.
Yeah, you know, and there are a lot of people that say that back in the early versions of football, it was basically villages, and you had the river on one side and the mountains on the other were out of bounds. And you tried to get a skull from one village to the other. So maybe it was a Christian.
maybe you've come up with a motivational tactic for our guys.
You know, right now they don't need too much motivation. They've found their form a little bit here in the last few games. We certainly let one go results-wise down at Florida Gulf Coast, unfortunately. But the other 3 or 4 games surrounding that, I think the play has been quite good. And, you know, frankly, the goals are coming in bunches, which is nice. I mean, it's certainly nice to get ahead of some teams. And, you know, we'll see if we can keep it going this weekend against USC Upstate here at home.
Tell us a little bit about your roster, please. You know, the key points, some of your best defensemen, your strikers, whatnot. Talk a little bit about what's going on with your roster.
Well, we play with 4 guys in the back. We have a junior college transfer, Arturo Rusin, on the right side. Does a really good job, understands his role quite well, when to defend, when to go forward. 2 center backs are J.J. Bostic, who's in the league lead right now with goals scored, believe it or not, but is doing a great job on both sides of the ball. David Caulfield, a freshman for us out of the Tampa area, came in kind of bigger, stronger, athletic defender. Found his way a little bit as the season went on and was the fortunate beneficiary of an injury. And then our left-sided is a Norwegian kid out of Norway that is doing a very nice job for us, Jeppe Mo. And then in the back and midfield, we got a couple guys rotating through that role. Sebastian Contreras has been a great job starting for us. And then we got Eyal Cohen, who was a big pickup for us in the middle of the field. Took about 6 or 7 games to get him eligible. He was an Israeli national who had some issues with the clearinghouse and all the things we have to go through. Lucas Diniz, a Brazilian kid, is doing a great job for us as the attacking mid-role in our sport. And then the 3 forwards, Eli Betis and Ross Morrison have been splitting some time as the true, what we call a number 9 forward, target up high. And then out wide on both sides, we've got Jared Huber, who was the Offensive Player of the Week for the conference this year. On about 5 or 6 goals for the season now, and then another Norwegian, Marco Jorth, who's playing on the left side. And the key to all of it in our sport, like having a good quarterback, is having a good goalkeeper.
Right.
And we've got a great one in Paul Ladwig out of Germany. Was injured for a few games. We had a field player fill in because our backup keeper also had an injury, and so that position's come up really well for us the last 8-9 games. And then the reserves coming in are doing a great job. And we're just really starting to find the rhythm in front of goal. In our sport, you know, it's kind of like the red zone. Sometimes you look at the red zone stats and it doesn't really tell the picture of a game necessarily. Right. But we're starting to convert in the red zone, and for our sport, that's very important.
Now you've got USC Upstate this season. I know, folks. The soccer games are played out at the Athletic Training Center, and it's just a $5 admission to go in. And when are your games this weekend?
We play at noon on Saturday. Obviously, the football team is home this weekend at 6 p.m., so we'll have our guys go support them when we're done. You know, we'll have some recruits around and showing them what Stetson and athletics are all about. But we play at noon on Saturday this week, and then we play Jacksonville next Friday at home. That will be at 7 p.m. So those will be our next 2 games. We have some time in between to work on some things that we see, and certainly give the guys an opportunity to rest and recover. And you know, like anything, if you're well rested and you're ready to go, you're going to play a little bit better, at least in the beginning.
All right. And we're back here on Hatter Chatter from the Half Wall Beer House in DeLand, Florida, right here at the intersection of Indiana and Woodland Boulevard. We got a nice crowd here tonight, 76 beers on tap. We got 25 televisions for the Niners and the Rams. Who you got tonight, Ernie?
You know, I worked at Indiana University with Tom Crean, who is the brother-in-law of one Jim Harbaugh. So, and having been a Colts quarterback and married to a Colts fan from Indiana, I will have to go with the Harbaugh on this.
Yeah, got to. I know you're going Harbaugh. You love the Harbaugh.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. Coached against him.
You coached against Jim?
Yeah, he was at San Diego when I was at Princeton.
Is that right?
Yeah, we played 2 years in a row.
How about that? Did you beat him?
Yeah, both times.
Both times. So you really like Jim Harbaugh?
Well, he doesn't like me much.
So you could say you own Jim Harbaugh.
Let me say this.
2-0 against Jim Harbaugh.
Let me say this. I should be the 49ers coach right now.
Exactly. How come? I mean, what's the deal? Well, let's start this campaign right now. Roger Hughes undefeated against Jim Harbaugh of the 49ers. And I think
that job might be opening soon.
Hey,
so
there you go,
Roger. There you go.
You know, here's another thing. You know who? You know, Steve Osterman, who's our analyst on the radio broadcast, is a Hall of Fame offensive lineman at Washington State. And you know who was ball boy at Washington State while he was there?
Jim Harbaugh.
John Elway.
Oh.
John Elway.
Jack Elway was offensive coordinator, and John Elway was the ball boy.
All right.
Yep. And said he was a little punk even back then.
I heard he broke a few officials' hands throwing the ball during the game, though.
Yeah, it would surprise me.
He can bring some heat now.
I'm kidding. John Elway is awesome. He's great. If you like the Broncos, if you like John Elway, that kind of thing. Anyway, Ernie, you got the big games this week. I'm not a big John Elway. What? I'm sorry. You know, I'm not a big John Elway fan. I like Dan Marino. See? Stacy likes Dan Marino. I like Dan Marino better than John. Who's the best quarterback in the NFL history?
Brett Favre's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Brett Favre's pretty good. What about you, Ernie? What do you think? Peyton?
That's a tough one. Yeah.
It's hard to beat Peyton Manning.
It's hard when you've been around in Indiana as much as we have in the last 10 to 12, or invested in Indiana in the last 10 or 12 years without thinking he's probably the best.
Yeah.
When you look at Joe Montana, I mean, how
I would
many
say,
Super Bowl rings?
other
Yeah.
than him, I would definitely probably go with Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Because to me, you have to back up with championships.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
the one thing. If
No
Peyton
question.
wins another one, I think he's clearly right there.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, he's always going to be in the discussion of 2 or 3 guys because of that. Marino,
Right.
similar reasons, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. Marino, I love Marino's quick release.
Yeah.
Whenever I see a quarterback with that little flick, I'm like, watch that kid.
Well, see, I don't just want him to win a Super Bowl because I have his rookie card. I just want him to keep climbing and climbing. I actually have that one in a case somewhere.
That's right. You need some value there, you know. Absolutely. Well, let's get back to soccer for a moment. You've got the big games against USC Upstate this weekend. We've talked about that. What's the rest of the season hold for you?
Well, next Friday we have another crucial conference match with rival Jacksonville. Then we go on the road to wrap up the conference season on Saturday, November 1st at Northern Kentucky. So right now we're 2-1, sitting in second place, tied with North Florida, who we already beat. So hopefully that puts us in a good position with them. And I think Florida Gulf Coast has 1 or 2 tough ones coming up where maybe they take a result that doesn't go their way, and we're right back in the mix. And so we tell the guys every week, every game's more important than the last one you played.
Right.
And this is the one we have to win this week.
Right. Now, after the regular season, you're going to have a tournament, a conference tournament. Where is that going to be held this year?
From my understanding, as a new coach in the league, it's going to go to the highest seed.
Okay.
And so
Do you have a shot at it?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, if we were to get the results that we expect to get in our next 3 conference games, and like I said, you know, Florida Gulf Coast, who beat us, unfortunately, they're going to have to take a knock somewhere.
Right.
I think they have a very tough game the night we're in Kentucky playing at Lipscomb, the team we just beat on Saturday. I think they're a good team. It's going to be a little bit chilly in Nashville November 1st. And team from South Florida, you know, maybe they just catch them on an off night. And if that goes our way, then it's a 3-way tie and all the rule breakers come into play, which right now we're in pretty good shape. So, but first place gets the host. The top 6 teams make it. Top 2 get a bye. And right now we're in the mix for both the host and the number 2. And we'll see what we can do over the next 3 weeks to keep it that way.
Now, what's the NCAA champion situation look like?
We are in the Atlantic Sun, unfortunately, what we call a one-bid league.
Okay.
We don't have the strength of schedule among the other 6 or 7 teams to really pump each other up in our conference schedule.
Yeah.
Some of us have better out of conference than others, but unfortunately, right now it's a one-bid league, so you got to win your conference tournament. And so, in order to do that, you want to put yourself in the best position through having a good regular season. You want to play the 2 games versus the 3 games, obviously. And so if we can be one of those top 2 seeds, obviously hosting at home is another benefit. But at the same time, I've done it both ways. I've done it winning 2 games. I've done it winning 3 games. You know, at the end of the day, you know what's out there for you when you win those games. And you're going to play each one of them as if it's your last, because at the end of the day, it's going to be. And so winner take all in those games. And you know, we at Indiana University last year were in a very similar situation where, unfortunately, we weren't going to make 500 on the season for the first time in our program's history.
Wow.
And the only way to continue our NCAA run was to win our conference tournament. And we went to Columbus, Ohio on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday and got 3 victories and at least kept one of those streaks alive, 26 in a row. So,
nice.
You know, I told the guys just this past week, I said, there's nothing better than November soccer. Wait, hold on. December soccer is even better because only 8 of them get to play. So we'll see how it goes.
Right on. Let me ask you a question. We'll get to the actual makeup of the soccer athlete, you know, and some athletic qualities pretty much transcend all sports, you know, namely speed, jumping ability, quickness.
Sure.
Okay, let's throw those aside. What separates a good hockey player from a good soccer player? Because I know I used to do pro hockey too, so
sure.
sometimes I'm prone to misspeak.
It's a very similar sport.
Yeah, it actually is. Very similar. What separates a good from a great soccer player?
You know, it's not necessarily, well, I guess they do say the brain is a muscle.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, you mentioned the three biggest ones for us: speed, quickness, and power, jumping ability. And we talk about soccer IQ. You know, we basically have 4 pillars of our sport. Technical, can you actually kick and pass a soccer ball, finish a soccer ball, shoot it. Tactical, do you know how to play the game? Mental, psychological, how are you under pressure, and those types of things. And then obviously the last one being physical. And so if you take the 3 that you mentioned and put them out of the way, the next one for sure that's going to start to separate the good from the great players or the elite is going to be how they play. Yeah. And we talk about in our sport having a great or very good soccer IQ. So when you get the ball, do you know where it needs to go, and how quickly can you make that happen? Right. Are you moving into positions without the ball that when someone else around you gets the ball, they know you're there and can play you that simply? If you watch the great players in the World Cup, if you watch the great players week in and week out in the Premier League or those types of things, you're just going to notice how much they're moving. Right. And how they're always kind of, it might be 2 or 3 steps, but it's the difference between a yard or 2 in the passing lane that creates an angle for them to play quickly the next time. Right. And those players simply can figure it out. They always say Pele, arguably the best player ever, knew 3 moves ahead of where the ball was going to be, and he was already standing there with no one around him. And the good ones do it. Yeah. And we're working very hard to make our players as soccer smart as possible.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, it sounds like you're off to a good start. I know the team's doing well. Got a big matchup this weekend again with USC Upstate at noon.
We play at noon on Saturday at the Athletic Training Center here in DeLand. Okay. And we have a great environment with the students coming out. The families are going to be there. And we're really looking forward to getting back after it at home this week.
All right, you heard it, folks. So if you're coming out to the game against Jacksonville for the football game at 6 o'clock that night, definitely stop by the Athletic Training Center and pick up a soccer game as well. You can take in a soccer game, go down tailgate for a couple hours, and then go to the football game. That's how we really want you to do it. Okay, trust me, Coach, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Okay, we're going to take another timeout. Thanks a lot, Ernie.
Yeah, you're very
Appreciate
welcome.
you joining us. When we come back, we'll preview this weekend's matchup with Jacksonville and what's going to be a Pink Army game. We'll be right back here on Hatter Chatter and the Roger Hughes Show on Bright House Sports Network.